The Pittsburgh Steelers are making changes, and Mike Tomlin is following through on his promise to a degree. I guess it's up to you to decide whether or not it's the change that you were looking for and the change that you will accept. What's going on, everybody? I'm Noah Strackmine. Thank you for jumping on to Steelers to Go, your daily to-go cup of Pittsburgh Steelers news and analysis. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talk and subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. Mike Tomlin took the podium yesterday after promising change following the Pittsburgh Steelers Week 4 blowout loss to the Houston Texans. He walks up to the podium Sunday night, 30-6 just left the scoreboard. The Pittsburgh Steelers fan base is distraught. Everybody is pissed off. It is the end. This is over. It's time to fire Matt Canada. It's time to possibly change the quarterback. Mike Tomlin has taken more blame than ever before. He walks up to the podium and he says, hell yeah, there's going to be change. We are most certainly going to bring change. And immediately everybody starts talking about what that change could be, but everybody and anybody is skeptical about whether or not it's going to come. Social media exploded. I talked to random people on the street. I was at the gym and people were coming up to me. Everybody was, well, they just kind of admitted defeat. Everybody looked at it and just said, he's not going to do anything. There isn't going to be any change. This is the first time I'm losing Tomlin. There were a lot of people that for the first time looked at Mike Tomlin and said, I can't support him anymore. I can't do this. I can't stand by a guy who just blatantly ignores the obvious and the problems and then comes up with excuses about why he's not going to change them. People were skeptical. Mike Tomlin takes the podium on Tuesday. He recaps the game. He doesn't mention one time in the opener, not once in the opener, about the coaching at all. Doesn't bring it up one time. And then the second question in, he's asked after the game, you brought up change. What is that change? This is his answer.
You mentioned after the game, changes are coming. What are those changes?
You know, I was talking about the physicality component or the lack thereof, and it didn't take long for me to realize practice attire early in the year, but also, you know, some matchup related things. Man, we're open to dividing the labor up more finely in an effort to get better play. To put people in circumstances that are advantageous to their skill set without being too specific and getting into game plan related things. We're open to doing whatever's required to highlight the skill sets of people based on what we have seen to this point in the journey.
As for coaching changes, Tomlin says no, not right now. He's got no plans for it. He went on to somewhat say that their preparation is on the coaching and that it's on the coaching, that they're not practicing hard enough and they're not ready to be physical. That's on the coaches. But really, it was a little over 30 minutes of him talking about how it's the players' fault that the Pittsburgh Steelers are as bad as they are and not their offensive coordinators. It is not the play calling. It is not Mike Tomlin. It is certainly not Matt Canada. That was made loud and clear. It is not Matt Canada's fault that the Pittsburgh Steelers are this bad. It's the players. It's Kenny Pickett. It's the offensive line. It is, well, just the fact that they are just not physical enough. I'll say this. Let's start with the positives. This is a good move for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They do need to be more physical. They do need to add padded practices. They do need to ramp things up. They missed a season high 14 tackles against the Houston Texans. 14 tackles. That can't happen. This is the NFL. If you don't know how to tackle, you shouldn't be in this league. And with the guys that the Pittsburgh Steelers have on defense, that's how they're going to win games. They didn't build a team to beat a team athletically. They didn't build a team to go out and be able to cover Devontae Adams on a daily basis and shut him down for 4 quarters. That's not the team that they have. They have a team that's going to hit you in the mouth. They have a team that's going to stuff the run. They got a team that's going to get after the quarterback and dominate an offensive line and win in the trenches. And if you can win in the trenches, you can make things difficult for an opposing offense. And then your defense allows light for your offense. And all you do is need your offense to succeed. And they want to run the ball properly so that the offense can succeed. That's the Steelers' game plan. And trying to get back to that is a good idea. It's not a bad move for Mike Tomlin to look at his team and say, hey, man, look, we got to ramp things up. We are slow. we are a little bit pathetic, and it is 100% lack of physicality, 100% the fact that we're walking in practice and barely doing anything and throwing deep balls all the time. And we got to practice better. We got to be more physical. We got to ramp things up. We got to hit. Maybe that'll solve some things. And I think it will. I'm still on the bandwagon of Baltimore is going to come to town and the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to beat them. And for at least a week, I guess 2, because it'll be the bye week, the Pittsburgh Steelers will have somewhat of a free pass. And Mike Tomlin will be able to avoid all the criticism, and Matt Canada hate will slow down, and people will just accept that this is what's going to happen and where the Pittsburgh Steelers are and what they're allowing to take place. That's what they'll do. And they'll just say, well, they're 3-2. And I'm not trying to talk trash on anybody. I'm not trying to say you shouldn't just embrace where the Pittsburgh Steelers are. No, you should, because if your options are be absolutely miserable all season long because you understand how low the ceiling is for this team, or try to make the best of it, I'm always a proponent of make the best of a situation. Try your best to see the positive. Unfortunately, there's not a ton here. Let's get to the negatives. The fact that Mike Tomlin spent 31 minutes and deflected all questions about Matt Canada was extremely alarming. The fact that you went on social media afterwards and everybody and anybody was saying, yeah, I'm done with Mike Tomlin. This is the end of it. You could come up with a million excuses if you want, but this is the last time I will support Mike Tomlin. That was all over social media. It is being asked on the radio. It is being asked in national media. I was watching the Pat McAfee show. Huge fans of Mike Tomlin. I've seen Mike Tomlin on that show a dozen times. Even they asked, is it time for Mike Tomlin to go? Has he lost the mojo? Has he lost this team? Has he lost the ability to win in the NFL? And truthfully, that question, as of right now, is probably a yes. And it's tough to say. You know, I think Mike Tomlin is a phenomenal coach. I think Mike Tomlin is a phenomenal leader of men. But to spend 31 minutes and come up with every excuse possible about why it's your players that stink and your quarterback that's the issue, and unlike every other team in the NFL, put the blame on the guys on the field instead of the coaching staff. I mean, look around the league. If a quarterback stinks, the first person to go is the offensive coordinator. If a new first-round quarterback isn't getting the job done, they're going to do everything in their power to get the people in place to make it happen for that quarterback. The Pittsburgh Steelers, on the other hand, are going to put all the blame on the quarterback, as much blame on the players as humanly possible, and stick with their offensive coordinator. And chances are, at this rate, Kenny Pickett's gone in 2 years, and they're on to the next guy. And maybe Matt Canada's still around. And at that point, you're ruining another quarterback because of this offensive coordinator. And we just see how long Mike Tomlin could carry this on to defend a guy that isn't worth defending. I have no idea what's going on. I have none. I do not understand the loyalty. I do not understand just the passion to defend this guy. I have zero idea why Mike Tomlin is being so stubborn and looking at this in a completely different way than every single other person watching this game. Doesn't make any sense. But if you ask Mike Tomlin, it's the players' fault. They are the reason that the Pittsburgh Steelers stink. It is not the coaching. It is definitely not Matt Canada. And there will be changes. But those changes are harder practices so we can ramp up physicality. None of it has to do with their play calling. None of it has to do with the 4th and 1 decisions. And just so everybody is aware, the reason that the Pittsburgh Steelers lined up in shotgun and didn't continue to run the ball on 4th and 1 in a play that Kenny Pickett got hurt, and yes, Kenny Pickett got himself hurt on that play, I'll acknowledge that. But the reason that they put Kenny Pickett in that situation is because Dan Moore Jr., James Daniels, and Pat Freiermuth were not able to be in the game. So instead, it was Broderick Jones, Nate Herbig, and Darnell Washington. And I don't know if you watched the draft process. I don't know if you talked about or heard the interviews of Darnell Washington and Broderick Jones after they were drafted, but all they talked about was how Darnell Washington was pretty much another left tackle and how the two of them dominated the run game year in and year out in Georgia. That was their specialty, was the run game and run blocking. But with those two on the field, you couldn't run the football. Things make zero sense coming out of Tuesday. Things make zero sense that Mike Tomlin says anymore. And yeah, is he losing his touch? Probably. Is he on his way to a disastrous fallout? Possibly. Is he going to keep making excuses and put the blame on the players and not the coaching? Most definitely.